You're listening to Give God 90, where we're not afraid of the tough biblical questions, because we will dig through the language, the culture, and the history to find the truth revealed in the words of our Creator.
I wanna see the light.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Give God 90. My name is Jerry Mitchell, your host for Give God 90. Myra's not with me today, but I do appreciate all of you allowing me to spend some time with you today. Before I really dig into anything and get started, there's a couple of things I want to and need to let you know about. This week in the United States is Thanksgiving week, so Thursday we will not be broadcasting. So couple of reasons for that. Yes, we're having family here, and it's going to be crazy. So I'm not going to put them through the grief and aggravation of kicking them out, so we can do a podcast that afternoon. The other thing that I want to make sure I let you know about, around the world there is some problems. Uganda right now is experiencing some terrible things going on with their campaigns and getting ready and leading up to their presidential elections. Fighting in the streets, people are being killed. I had one person tell me today that just 29 people in their community were killed. They had the funeral services for them today. It's just a terrible time over there. Those people need prayer. They need just keep them uplifted in prayer. They really are going through some tough times. One of the people that I communicate with, Mark, has an orphanage there, and it's the Nagakulu. I don't have that right in front of me at the moment, but they have actually been displaced a few weeks ago, and they're looking. They've got a place, but it's very expensive. They're looking for some support there. I will put in the comments section, they do have a GoFundMe page. If you choose to support them, you can do that directly through that. And I appreciate Mark for providing that. There are other people there that need help that we communicate with regularly. If you want to help support them, you can contact me at jerry@givegod90.com. Or reach out to me another way, and I will make sure that you are in contact with the people who need your help, however you want to help. So there is that. Don't just hear that and say, "Oh dear, isn't that terrible?" Pray about that. That is a terrible situation, and fortunately, here in the United States, we have not come to that yet. We may very well come to that. As things progress, it looks more and more like this election is far from over. So as things progress, keep in mind, it could be us. Also, I want to remind you to please visit GiveGod90.com and check out what we've got there. There's all kinds of good stuff going on. And today, I want to look at something I sort of several months, maybe a couple of years ago, did something similar to this. But when we think about insulated, not isolated, we have a lot of talk today about, especially with the COVID problem going on around the world, people in isolation. Isolation means you are separated. You don't interact with others. And I want to be I want to start out here and go back to Genesis, as I really like to do, right? If we look at Genesis chapter 2, verses 18 through 21, then Jehovah said, "It is not good for man to be alone." Let me stop right there. The Almighty himself says, do not isolate, right? It's not good for man to be alone. Let me continue. I will make a helper as his complement. So Jehovah formed out of the ground every wild animal, every bird of the sky, and brought each to the man to see what he would call it. Whatever the man called the living creature, that was the name. The man gave names to all of the livestock, to the birds of the sky, to every wild animal, but for the man no helper was found as his complement. So Jehovah caused a deep sleep to come over the man, and he slept. God took some of his ribs and closed the flesh in that place. And of course, that is how we get Eve. Okay, we know from that passage that we are not intended, okay, right from the get-go, we are not by design intended to be alone. Rather, we are to gather together. We are to form families. We are to form communities, right? What, you can call them tribes, you can call them nations, you can call them whatever you want to call them, but we are intended to be interdependent on each other, to benefit each other, and to care for each other. It's that simple. The difference between insulation and isolation has never, ever been more important than it is right now. Excuse me, I've got a little bit of a frog in my throat today. One of the best examples that I can think of to learn the difference between insulation and isolation is electricity. Okay, electricity is something that most of us around the world are familiar with, even if some of us don't use it. Chances are, if you're listening to me, you have access to electricity, right? Of some form. When we isolate the wires that conduct the current, they're not allowed near each other. They don't come into contact with each other. Now, if the voltage is sufficiently high enough, if they just kind of get close, you're going to see a spark or an arc. You're going to see some kind of a reaction. If they actually touch, you get a very violent reaction, right? If we keep the wires far apart or isolated from each other, they're safe. But it's not the most efficient way for them to be used. And people are just exactly like that. People people are just exactly like that. I know people, when they get close to somebody, there can be some sparks that fly, right? You know what I'm talking about. Don't pretend you don't know what I'm saying out there. They argue, they fight, they bicker. And the wires that I just described have a special coating on them. And that surrounds the wire and insulates them against that reaction. The insulation actually allows the wires to be right next to each other and touch, but you don't get the reaction. And again, we're going to go back to people here. Okay, ready? I know people like this. If they are surrounded by others, and sometimes it's just one, they can be not only close to each other, they can be in the same room, they can be sitting next to each other, and you don't get that reaction that you normally would because they are behaved. Now, sometimes this is siblings, and the insulator is a parent. Sometimes this is other family members, and the insulator may be a sibling or a spouse. You're familiar with this. Don't pretend you don't know what I'm saying. Right? You've probably witnessed this. I don't know many families who don't have that one person who can set things off, right? Y'all know what I'm saying. I've seen it a lot of times. Have it in each side of our family. Guarantee it. But the person who acts as an insulator, okay, they can just be in the same room, and those two people that can't get along, that cause the spark or the fight or the argument or the bickering, they're now insulated because of that. Sometimes one, sometimes more. But they can be next to each other. Even though there's tension, even though you know that there's that possibility, they can be more efficient, right? It's not good for people to be isolated, okay? We already know that from Genesis chapter 2. So we have to figure out, how do we insulate ourselves, not just from the physical but the spiritual and the emotional things as well. There are things in the world that try to harm us, right? We know that there are things in the world because of our weakening at the garden when Adam and Eve ate the fruit. They call it a curse, but it's actually a weakening. Now we are susceptible to these things that try to harm us. Now, the things that try to harm us, just like anything else, they have to, if we are careful, get through our insulation. What is the insulation that we need? Proverbs 18:10 says, "The name Yehovah is a strong tower. The righteous run into and are safe." If they run into that strong tower, they are safe under that umbrella of the Almighty's name. Okay, now Solomon's father David, he writes in Psalms 119 all about what we're talking about here. Okay, let's look at verses 9 and 10. It says, "How can a young person live a pure life? He can do it by obeying your word." See, this is the beginning of maintaining a healthy spirit and having healthy emotions, and that leads to having a healthy physical body. Now, if we keep going, what else can we find that is going to help us determine what our insulation should be? Now, I know a lot of good Christians out there say, well, your insulation needs to be your faith in Jesus. Well, guess what? Christians, I need to inform you of something that you can have all the faith you want, but you remember what's in James. Faith is believing, and even the demons believe, and they are terrified because they know that faith comes from the inside. Faith comes from each and every one of us. That's the wire. That's the current. Okay? That is the current that we're talking about that runs through the wires that is us. I'm talking about the insulation that surrounds that wire. What is that insulation? It's the Word of the Almighty. It is everything that He has spoken. Verses 36 and 37 of Psalm 119, "Help me want to obey your rules instead of selfishly wanting riches. Keep me from looking at worthless things. Let me live by your word." That comes from the International Children's Bible. In fact, the rest of these I'm going to read from the International Children's Bible. When we are surrounded by the Word of God, it insulates us. When we allow His Word to surround us, okay, and we are following His instructions, we're living in that insulation, we are protected. Let me keep going with what David says here. Okay? Verse 46 of Psalm 119, "I will discuss your rules with kings, and I will not be ashamed." Here we see that David is insulated and not isolated. He's around other kings. When you're a king, you hang around other kings, right? You know what I mean. When David didn't just crawl in a hole and stay there. He didn't go hide. He was among the people. He was out and about. He was doing things. He was interactive and interdependent on other people. But he knew that to accomplish the things that the Almighty needed him to accomplish, he had to be insulated with the word from the Almighty. Let's skip down to verse 49 through 52. Remember your promise to me. David's writing this. Remember your promise to me. I am your servant. It gives me hope. The word from the Almighty, that insulation, gives us hope. Verse 50, when I suffer, this comforts me. Your promise gives me life. Proud people make fun of me all the time, but I do not reject your teaching. I remember your laws from long ago. They comfort me. See, following our Creator's instructions, they give us hope and they give us comfort. Now, there's a lot of people out there who say, oh, we don't have to do that anymore. That's all been done away with. Well, if you say that the Word, all of the instructions that come from these things that are written in what many Christians call the Old Testament, if that's all been done away with, then what we're doing away with are the things that give us hope, the things that comfort us. That's not what we're teaching. We need to be teaching that following these instructions gives us hope. Following these instructions brings us comfort, just like David said. I'm going to skip way down here to verse 105. Your word is a lamp for my feet and a light for my way. Has that been done away with? I don't think so. Do you want that to be done away with? Chances are, if you do, you're not listening to me. Let me keep going here. Let's go down to verse 117 through 119. Help me and I will be saved. I will always respect your demands. You reject everyone who ignores your demands. Their lies mislead them. And here's something in verse 119 of Psalm 119. If you don't remember anything else I say today, take this to the bank. You throw away the wicked of the world like trash. You throw away the wicked of the world like trash. Let me say that again. Verse 119 of Psalm 119. You throw away the wicked of the world like trash. If you don't remember anything else, remember that. Let's go down to verse 157 through 165. Many enemies are after me, but I have not rejected your rules. I see those traitors. I hate them because they do not obey what you say. See how I love your orders, Lord. Give me life by your love. Your words are true from the start, and all your laws will be fair forever. Leaders attack me for no reason, but I fear your law in my heart. I am as happy over your promises as if I had found a great treasure. I hate and despise lies, but I love your teachings. 7 times a day will I praise you for your fair laws. Those who love your teachings will find true peace. You want to know why we don't have true peace in this world today? How many Christian churches are teaching that these things have been done away with? I don't understand how somebody can say, I love God, and say, but that part of it, that's not important. We don't have to do those things anymore. See, over and over, we see the words of our Creator are insulation that protects us from the isolation the world wants to force on us. Moses writes in Exodus 15:26, you must obey the Lord your God, for you must do what the Lord said is right. You must obey all his laws and keep his rules. If you do these things, I will not give you any of the sicknesses I gave the Egyptians. I am the Lord who heals you. Did you catch that? If you hear his voice and obey his commands, I will not give you any of the sicknesses of the Egyptians. Now, there are other translations that say none of the things that have ever affected the Egyptians will harm you. They will not harm you. Yehovah Rofi, my healer. Yehovah the healer. Okay? That's what we need to remember. There's a lot of things we should remember. He throws the wicked away like trash. And if you hear his word and do what he says, he will not let any of the sicknesses that the Egyptians had come to you. He will not let the weaknesses of the things harm you, because you have been weakened at creation, or just after creation. When Adam and Eve ate the fruit, we were weakened, right? We were cursed. But if you do the things he tells you to do, then you're safe. Remember now, remember that even in Scripture we see people who are told to separate for a certain period of time, right? They're told they needed to be in isolation for a certain reason. And I don't have a whole lot of time to go into a lot of detail about that, because I don't want this to be like 3 hours long, all right? And trust me, you don't either. But after a time of separation, there was a price to pay for returning to society. There was a price to pay to come back into the camp. There was a price to pay to be around people again. You know, whether it was from the birth of a child or whether you had been sick. You know, the big thing back then was, oh, that's the lepers. Oh, it's the leper. Unclean, and all that kind of stuff. Okay, here's the thing. Once they were healed, there was a price to pay to come back into society. Now, it's not meant to punish the mother of a newborn, right? That's not what it's for. And like I say, I'm not going to get into a lot of detail on this. But it was really to ensure that you had a desire to return. All right? Now, the price for returning into society was very, very low. You know, anybody could afford it. But it had to be paid not because you were dirty, okay? It had to be paid not because somebody had gone out and rolled in the mud puddle or anything like that. The price had to be paid because of the broken covenant. Had we not agreed to that blood covenant prior to Leviticus, you know, and Leviticus was really written because we broke the covenant, right? The whole concept of the sacrifices was developed because we broke the covenant. But because of that covenant at Mount Sinai, now there's a price that you have to pay. You have to want to come back. You know, it's just not, oh, we want you to come back. No, I don't want to. Oh, we want you to come back. No, I don't want to. Here's the thing. You have to want it. You have to want it. You don't get to have somebody else pray you into the kingdom. You have to have a desire to be there. All right? The whole concept was that society demanded a healthy, whole person. Now, you can't be whole unless you want to be. You have to have a desire to be completely healed. You know, today, we don't have a desire to be completely healed. We just want to feel better, right? You know, if you get a stuffy nose, you don't want to be healed. You just don't want the stuffy nose. If you cut yourself, you might not want the stitches. You just want it to stop bleeding. If you see where I'm going with this, right? If you get cancer, you don't want to continue with the cancer. You want the cancer gone, but you want to continue the lifestyle that gave it to you to begin with. The whole concept of that price to pay to come back into society was to ensure you changed your lifestyle. Okay? That's what it was. Because to be made whole means you're going to stop doing the things that made you unwhole. Okay? It's not clean or dirty. It's, are you complete or are you incomplete? Now, and I've gone over this before several months ago about the reason the mother was separated was because of the loss of blood is loss of life. And until she builds all that back up, she is more susceptible to other diseases. Therefore, she has to be healthy. The child has to be healthy. Then there's the price to pay to come back into society because of that rebuilding of life, that lost blood. It brings you back. It completes your time of separation. Completely legitimate reason for that. Okay? Especially back then. We've been given this insulation to keep us safe. It keeps us safe physically, it keeps us safe spiritually, and it keeps us safe emotionally. The question is, will you wrap yourself in the insulation that comes from your Creator? Or will you choose to isolate yourself so that you're less efficient, less productive? And really, speaking as people, okay, if you're less efficient, if you're less productive, if you're less interactive, does that make you a little bit less human? Have you dehumanized yourself that much to isolate yourself away from people? There's a price for stepping back into society, but that price is affordable. Okay? Now, you're probably willing to trust the insulation that covers, like an electric cord on an appliance. Okay? If you plug your phone charger in, or if you plug your computer in, if you plug a toaster in, or whatever it may be, a television or a radio, you trust the insulation on that cord, that when you grab that cord and put it in that outlet, you're not going to get shocked, right? How much more are you willing to trust the words of your Creator? How much more are you willing to trust the one who designed you to live in His creation? How much more can you depend on the words from the Almighty when He keeps His promises? When He says, I do not change, so you are not destroyed. How much more are you willing to do and willing to give? How much more are you ready to accept? Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, boys and girls, whoever happens to be listening, are you willing to trust your Creator? Are you willing to do what it takes to be complete? Are you willing to do what it takes to come back into society? There's a whole lot of things that I could go into today, but I really don't want to take up much more of your time, and I'm not going to. But I want you to think very, very seriously. Are you insulated or are you isolated? Think about that as we go into this season where many people will be looking to gather, looking to celebrate, wanting to spend time with family and friends. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you're willing to pay the price and get insulated. I really do. Don't forget, there won't be a podcast on Thursday because of the Thanksgiving holiday here in the United States. Continue to pray for our friends in Uganda, and like I say, I will put in the comments section the GoFundMe page link for Mark in Uganda. If you want to help someone else, let me know. Excuse me, and I will get you in contact with them. Ladies and gentlemen, until next time, I pray for you many, many blessings.